Welcome to Catalyst Chats, where leaders spark ideas, share wins, and tackle people challenges that shape the future of work.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Catalyst Chats. I'm Lindsay Hammer, and today I have the privilege of speaking with Nicole Martin. Nicole is the CEO and founder of HRBoost. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Lindsay. It's so nice to be here on your podcast. And I just love that you just changed your life, planted yourself in my home state.
Yes.
It's amazing
Thank you.
transformation. Now you have the mountain views and
So much prettier.
Mhm.
We're loving it here and super excited that we have that in common and really grateful for you joining us
Yes,
today.
I'm going to live vicariously through the fact that you're on soil that I wish I was. But I found my country husband in the city, believe it or not.
Okay.
He was in the horse business for the Libertyville Saddle Shop, which was like the largest catalog in the catalog era
Cool.
for
Yeah.
horse, for everything but the horse, right?
Okay.
And that, believe it or not, is in the suburbs of Chicago. Who would have guessed it? And
Funny.
so, when you find your soulmate, where they are is home. So I'll be in this Chicagoland region forever, although half of my heart is in Montana, where you now sit.
Yes. Yes. Well, come visit us anytime.
We're sure to meet in person one day when I fly to you.
I love that. I love that. And I love it for our audience if you would share a little bit about your background.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I left the small town in Livingston, Montana at the age of 18 because you grow up in a small town. The first thing you want to do is
Gotta
go
get
somewhere
out.
different, right? I was
Totally.
raised by a single mother, so I didn't necessarily know I was going to college. Moved to Chicagoland. My godmother was here. And then
Okay.
next thing you know, I was like, I'm getting a job. So I went right into financial services at the age of 18 as a receptionist.
Wow.
It was a big company,
Okay.
6,000 plus employees, and I got the job offer before I graduated high school, and that was
Nice.
my goal. Looking back, gosh, I wish I would have applied to college, but I didn't right away, right? I said
Yeah.
my mom raised me to put a roof over your head, honey, know how to take care of yourself. So I did that first. Then my godmother was the opposite, right? Where her kids went to Notre Dame, they got their college education paid for. And she was like, honey,
Yeah.
did you even apply to college? You were student body president, you were editor of school paper, you were a cheerleader, you were a straight A student. Like, why didn't you do all that? So long
Yeah.
story short, right? I started at a community college, transferred out. But shortly thereafter, I was at the college, and one of my first classes was like on what we would consider a training class.
Okay.
And it was before, this is when HR, which you'll love this, Lindsay, because I'm a little older than you, but it's when HR was called the personnel department. And when it was
Okay.
an inch manual like this big, and it's made with all these provisions with signature authority levels and everything you can
Oh my
imagine
goodness.
in a large global company. When it was, financial services at this time was when I fell into HR. So 6 months
Okay.
later, I went right into the owner of this business because I didn't know about fear. I didn't have any fear. You grew up in a small town.
Isn't that the best? I wish we could hold on to that for longer.
Well, you grew up in a small town, you say hi to everybody. And I
Yeah.
haven't lost that all these years. And
That's
then
amazing.
I didn't know about bureaucracy because in Montana there isn't much of it, and at least then anyway.
Yeah.
And I walked right in and I knocked on his door and I was like, "Hi, Jack. I have a project I did at school and I got an A on it, but I did it on your company. And so I thought I should share it with you." So I don't even know what I said to him at the time because it was before the days of PowerPoint, believe it or not, or
Yeah.
even Google presentation or any of that stuff that's out there now. And
Yeah.
so I think I just spoke it to him and told him the points of it.
Amazing.
And it was at the time where you have all these H-1B visa programmers coming over from India to
Yeah.
reprogram financial services software, which was not coded, believe it or not, Lindsay, for past the year 1999.
Wow.
So the year 2000 was coming.
Yeah. 2000 was a wild time.
Yeah, you're going back to I graduated high school in 95. So you're talking 1995, 96. They had not coded any of the software that's out there for life insurance, for Kemper, Allstate, Zurich, you name it, these big companies. They hadn't coded it past 1999. And so they had to bring in all these global resources from Canada, from India,
Yeah.
who were programmers who were going to just literally key, past the year 2000, their software.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. So I'm the receptionist, 18 at the time. This is going way back, I'm going to age myself here. This is how I fell into HR. And so I literally was at the front desk, gave this presentation to the gentleman who ran the place. I got done. He goes, "You're my receptionist." I said, "Yes." He goes, "You belong in HR." I go, "What's that?" And I've been there ever since. So I was
And
fortunate.
we're probably still asking ourselves that question,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I was fortunate because I went to grad school even. I worked full time and went to school full time all the way to the
Wow.
end through grad
That's
school.
impressive.
And I went to grad school with some people who still can't get a job in HR. I'm
Yeah.
fortunate because I had so much experience. I had more experience than I did education by the time I graduated with my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
I was already a director level, one woman on a 10-man team of a company
That's
in
amazing.
leadership at the time I went through grad school. And then basically I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mother. I married a very traditional man and then I became a mother. Tried that on kind of. I resigned when I was pregnant actually.
Yeah.
And my boss said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Well, I really want to get in touch with kids." Cristo Rey, St. Martin de Porres, and Waukegan, which is an impoverished area of Chicago, so to speak,
Yeah.
where kids in low-income neighborhoods, companies pay their tuition to a private school, and then one day of their 5-day week of school, they go work in a company, which I just think is brilliant.
Okay.
And so
That's
I
so
wanted to
cool.
volunteer with the kids that were expelling themselves from the program and not participating and get in touch with kids.
Yeah.
So I was like just all feeling that mom vibe when you're pregnant, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Many years
Those
ago.
hormones are crazy.
Yeah, and I was thinking I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom at the time, and I did that. My boss, though, would not let go of me. He goes, Nicole, you're a workaholic." I said, "No, I'm not." He goes, "Yes, you are." He goes, "What do you want?" And I said, "I only wanna come in 1 day a week. I wanna volunteer with the kids." He goes, "Can we still be a best and brightest company to work for?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably." He's like, I said, "It's sustainable." He goes, "Can you still run the girls in your department, coming in 1 day a week?" I said, "Probably, yeah." And he goes, "Well, then
Yeah.
get out of my office." He goes, "You still have a job. Tell me what day you'll be in next week. See ya." And
That's amazing.
that coasted my son was born in 2009, so it was really where I had my cake and eat it too, and I loved,
That's really
getting in touch
nice.
with all that, and I had the freedom and flexibility because I'd earned that credibility, and then the recession hit. So the recession
Yeah.
hit in 2008, 2009, and I was taking apart his business, sadly, over the period of 2 years while I was becoming a mother, and that all
Okay.
taught me how HR doesn't have to be in the office 5 days a week to build the best and
Yeah.
brightest company. I learned that it's really about how we make people feel, and I
Totally
just
agree.
learned a lot of what culture is through being an actual practitioner in HR. And I was always a generalist. I learned in those big companies, but by the time I jumped ship after my undergrad, I went straight into management at the age of 22. So
Okay.
I worked in a couple manufacturing companies, and then I got right into the leadership team, by the time I was like in my 28, 29-year-old age. And
Yeah.
that's when I learned that I was good at what I was doing. I
Totally.
ended up learning this fractional aspect of what my true business is now, even way before it became cool. And so 2008, 2009, I think I realized that my hormones balanced and I wasn't gonna be a stay-at-home mother, and I got
Yeah.
bored, and I'd done all my work essentially, and I tried on the whole at-home mom thing and realized that wasn't good. And at the same time, my husband decided to come home and retire, and who knew people do that, but my husband did. And so you get your husband and wife in a house, and it's like because everything's about family first, honestly, for
Yeah.
every family that's out there.
Yeah.
And so it changed my energy in terms of I could be outside, butterfly, flittering,
Yeah.
networking, telling people what I loved about HR, what I could do. And then before I knew it, I built $1 million business
It's amazing.
and I had a team of 20 people working for me over a period of the last 15 years. And
That's
so
incredible.
it's just been my joy and purpose, and that's our vision is to bring joy and purpose to people through their work. But I really learned that HR outsourcing was not, Lindsay, what HR in-house looked like. And you know that you've been in HR. So when I got out there and founded HRBoost in 2010, I immediately started learning what HR outsourcing was. And I had a number
Yeah.
of people in my network who would bring me in and show me these proposals and contracts for their HR outsourcing. And I was like, what? You're going to pay $80,000 a year for 2 years and no one's going to step in your office? I'm sorry, excuse me. I can do this and I can do this less and I can get it done in 6 weeks. Like, what is?
Yeah.
So I just was completely bungled by what is that? And the more I
Yeah.
learned about it, and the more I learned that some small businesses were being taken advantage of financially based on what they didn't know and fear mongering, essentially, that's when my business really started to grow because I was direct. I knew what I was talking about.
That's
And
amazing.
I really met clients at their pace and budget.
Yeah.
And I started to fall in love with underdogs. And I became addicted, Lindsay, to the energy that's in a small business as it grows. And I got a call right after I started HR Boost. My last in-house boss referred me to my first client, so to speak.
Okay, cool.
He's on my website, Michael Romano. So that was Armstrong Aerospace. And these are the guys who are the designers, by the way, behind the plugs on airplanes. That GoGo was their client, and right, we're
Yeah.
plug in and charge in our phones. So those were the guys
Okay.
that hired me, my first retainer client.
Cool.
And their goal was to grow their business from 10 million to 26 million and then sell it for 58 million within 36 months. And I was their HR partner during that time. And
That's
when it
amazing.
ended, that's when I was kind of like at a place where, I mean, entrepreneurship, like, you just started, but it's a journey. And I think it's where you're hit up for acquisition when you're successful. You're hit up for an investment from somebody who finds you, kind of like Shark Tank, let's say, but they find you. And then you're sitting there working your butt off, but you love it more than anything you've ever done. And you're
Yeah.
like, maybe I should get a job. It's easier. And I was in that place in 2014, 2015. And that's when I found Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. And
Okay.
went through that program. I was out meeting with a client, of Mac Hero, and he's like, Nicole, I really like your business. And I said, oh, thanks. And he's like, well, have you ever heard of Goldman Sachs? I'm like, yeah, they're a big company.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just a small little company.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you have like employees. I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you have at least four? I said, yeah. So this is like back in 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
And he says, at least 150K in revenue. Yeah, yeah. You've been in business for 3 years. Yeah, yeah. He goes, well, you qualify. You should go do it. I just got out of it. It's really great. And so I went and interviewed, and I went in, and it was like boot camp, like I'd never imagined, like even harder than
Yeah.
grad school, and like basically putting you through the financial modeling and forecasting of building a business plan in a Shark Tank way, where you're building the business plan. And at the end, you're making your pitch. And essentially, I did it and soul searched it and realized that what I overcame, even though I learned a lot,
Yeah.
it really made me overcome fear. Because when
Yeah.
you start building your business and you come into deals and you're taking bigger leaps in terms of, I took a SBA 7A loan, all these
Okay.
things, you start to realize that the person who's offering you money for equity in your business, when I went to my husband, for example, and I said, Brian, my husband, Michael, wants to be an investor in our business, and he offered me, 6 figures, and he wants to know what kind of equity that would get him. And my husband, that's the day I learned, Lindsay, I don't talk about business with my husband.
Yeah.
That's the day my husband looked at me and became kind of jealous, and like, he's not a jealous man, right? And
Yeah.
it's just this crazy realization where I go, yeah, it's not like that, Brian. It's completely not like that. But he's like, well, what does he see? And I couldn't answer that question because I had
Yeah.
in the mirror and seen myself the way the investor was seeing me.
Yeah.
And so I had to go through that search through Goldman Sachs. And when I came through that fear, I realized he sees that I'm a profit center, that I can make money, that
Totally.
yeah, so that's when I decided, out of those 3 choices, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna take this investment, and then I'll be 100% in control, but you can have 15% equity, and that's where I've been
Yeah.
ever since. And so my goal at that
Amazing.
time, Lindsay, was to build this $1 million boutique, and that was like my lifetime goal, like, to
Yeah.
do it before I retired.
That's
Have
so cool.
a firm in Chicago that was meeting businesses at their pace and budget, providing HR services, a la carte project retain, and going head to head against companies that do HR outsourcing and showing a fourth option, essentially.
Yeah.
And then I did that, and then COVID happened.
Okay.
COVID was where everybody that's in business really, really was challenged. And
Yeah.
some of the longest legacy businesses, family businesses that weren't prepared for it or even weren't doing their HR things right. Like, for example, if you're not paying your employees in a payroll system properly, you can't take a PIP. You can't take that loan that the government was giving us, the PPP loan,
Yeah.
to get reimbursed, essentially, even though it took like 8, 9 months. You
Yeah.
could have survived your business. So those of us that were doing that survived our business because the government basically saved half of America. I don't know if many
Yeah.
people get on and say that, but they did. And
Yeah.
then the PPP loans were forgiven later, which is amazing. And so that's what saved our country in terms of small business America. But a lot of businesses didn't survive that. But I learned something priceless during that time, which was, you're at your desk, your phone's ringing off the hook because you're already in business. A lot of it proved to small business that they needed HR when they didn't think they needed it, right, Lindsay? And
Yeah.
we ended up doing COVID business bundles and doing all these things, furloughing and helping them through it. And I was doing
Mhm.
that at my desk for free, just answering calls. And 10 of the calls that came into me right away were from CEOs out of state. They weren't even like CEOs
Okay.
in my own zip code in Chicago. They were like in rural parts of our country. And I
Yeah.
realized, oh my gosh, they don't have an HR boost in their backyard.
Yeah.
So I was having that experience and then lost all our revenue. You don't even enforce contracts because it's just not the right thing to do, right? We all just
Yeah.
kind of just stuck and said, go home to your families. And we all coasted. And I think within 6 months, and things started to come back and people figured out hybrid and virtual, and my team was already virtual and hybrid before COVID, we hit our $1 million mark, and it was place we've stayed. And that being a lifetime goal for the business was life-changing because I realized I'm so goal driven, like, well, what do I do next? I'm like in my
Yeah.
and what do I do next? And so I kind of soul searched that for a year or two. And we kept performing, and the business just was a beast. It just is all word of mouth. It just keeps happening.
So cool.
And I realized I didn't want a team bigger than I have now. I have a boutique firm and I love it. I love that I know my boosters. I love that we have this great culture, right? Something that
Yeah.
entrepreneurs love when they have an intimate team that's 20 employees or less. But we deliver big business. And so it's really where I wanted to figure out what would we do. And I had this epiphany and did all this research and then took another loan to go ahead and build the franchise. So now I have two businesses.
Okay.
And so HRBoost is my primary business in Chicago, kind of HQ if you think of it that way. And then my second entity that I've launched this year is HRBoost US Franchising. And so I'm looking right now for my first 4 brave HR people that want their own HRBoost in their backyard. And they
Okay.
come here to Chicago and learn from me everything I've learned in 15 years. And then we'll be part of their team essentially,
So cool.
them to go through that journey that I learned in 15 years, Lindsay, but that I want them to learn without all the pain of the roller coaster ride from
Yeah.
us.
That's so
So that's
cool.
my next dream is to, bring more entrepreneurs to having their dream, but specifically within my world of HR, HR practitioners and people that have maybe 18 years of experience, have been there, done that, and are ready to play. Because I think that freelancing is the true threat of talent. It already is the true threat, whether businesses realize it or not. Every skilled person in any vertical who can freelance or jump ship and put out a shingle, they will do that. And I call it the evidence. I published an article on LinkedIn, I think 2 years ago now, called Evidence.
Yeah.
And that was before all the downsizing, layoffs, and things that are happening now again. And it's like that cyclical problem, it just keeps happening. And the skilled people will just get tired of it. And they will just put out a shingle, figure out that they can actually make their salary that they used to earn on their own
Yeah.
terms, and they'll never go back. And freelancing globally is one of the fastest growing things for talent. So,
I believe it.
when we think, Lindsay, about HR strategies of attracting talent, and you and I both knowing that they can't staff their companies directly the way they traditionally have, that open source talent and creating teams of augmented pools
Yeah.
challenges HR specifically because companies have to learn how to hire not just on a W-2 and a 1099, but also on a W, and figuring out how to have a team built out of shared vision and values. And that's the future that we're at now. But I love that I can bring all of our experience to keep small businesses competing against big businesses and stealing talent, because some talent is open to being stolen essentially. And then what happens is
Totally.
where they can never be the heads of whatever it might been, or they're 12 layers deep inside a big, large company, they can actually out and lead a division in a smaller company, and they can have some creative freedom and feel alive in their work again. It like sparks them. So
Totally.
I love underdog companies. I love companies that want to steal talent and win. I love companies that love their people and really understand that how we make people feel matters. The poor people who start businesses who didn't realize they'd have a business and turn around and have all these people following them. They're like, I don't know what to
Yeah.
do with all of this. Like, I
Yeah.
love to come in and just help those kind of clients.
I think that's amazing. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with what you're saying about what's happening with talent and also just being re-energized by the work. I think I've seen a lot of people, former coworkers who have left and gone to startups or smaller businesses and been able to make such a huge impact where they were running into a bit of a ceiling at their previous company. And I think that's so meaningful.
Yes, absolutely. I did it by accident. I always say I'm an accidental entrepreneur,
Yeah,
but it's
I
because
love
I
that.
was empowered to do that.
Yeah.
But there's so many people. I even had a networking call yesterday with a woman who started her own business 4 years ago, and she was reaching out to me because she does project
Yeah.
consulting, and how she's just a solopreneur and how she's tired of the ups and downs, and she's gonna come out to the burbs, meet me, and you never know where that can lead. I'm a really big open networker, and I just believe that there's not enough healers, caregivers, or even HR practitioners to heal what we're coming up against in terms of the transformation. Everything going on with AI or future transitions, technology change, it takes a lot of bringing people along for utilization, and
Totally.
a lot of people, don't change as fast as the visionary leaders of their business at the helm
Yeah.
do, and that's
Yeah.
gonna take a lot of HR strategy and practices to bring the generations together,
Totally.
to get them through the changes that are happening, and I really think there's not enough HR leaders that are forward thinking. I mean, I've interviewed 500 for my 20, right? So not
Yeah.
all HR people are business savvy and forward thinking about the ROI of HR and how we get the discretionary effort of people on deck. And
Yeah.
so I,
I think a lot of people think of HR as like a necessary function of their business, but
yeah.
not something that can truly propel their business.
And that's a misnomer because I think HR is a profit center when it's done right, when you do
Yeah.
culture by design instead of culture by default. And sadly, the small businesses that find HRBoost typically find us out of pain. The one I just called right before I got on a podcast with you was because I just delivered a bunch of, with my team, FLSA reclassification letters and everything for all these positions because they were paying people salary. They didn't realize that they couldn't just do that. And how did he find out? Because somebody sued them. One of their
Oh,
employees sued them. And that's pain. I call that pain or triage.
totally.
We show up for those small businesses. That's how they find us sometimes. But I love the ones that call me that are like, I want to build the best and brightest company to work for. I want to actually poach our talent. I want to establish core values. I have 10 leaders. How do I take it forward? And we
Yeah.
love that. But then I love that I have big company, with best and brightest companies to work where I serve on the national boards. And those winners, they have internal HR teams that are sometimes so busy with the like inundation of day-to-day firefighting that they can't get to the big projects that they have to do
Totally.
on their back burner. And so they'll hire
Totally reactionary.
Yes. So they'll hire
Yeah.
us though because they know that we are seasoned practitioners here and we come
Yeah.
in and do a big lift. And so
That's amazing.
being that the people on my team are the talent. We're not selling software as a service. We're not a 1-800 number. We're not HR by PDF, right? We're actually people that show up with expertise. And I think that's something that differentiates us from what's out there in HR outsourcing that most people think HR outsourcing is because they're so inundated with people selling software as a service or selling like a bundled package where you're getting commodities like benefits and a 1-800 number or one person who won't even turn more than one project a year for you and isn't responsive. To me, they just sold you software as a service and a commodity. They didn't sell you HR practitioners.
Right. Yeah. They're just coming in to take over a pain point versus removing pain points and looking ahead because it sounds like you're really being a visionary for them and being able to say, here's how you can be more strategic and position yourself better for the future.
Well, and what we do is we provide dedicated teams. And so every team, every client that calls us, whether they have 10 employees or 500, we play in the space of 10 employees to 500 employees. And for that size demographic, essentially, whether they call us as a phone client or whether they go full retainer with us and we become their HR department, every client gets a strategic person on their team. We call those people executive HR advisors. We give them an
Okay.
actual HR consultant, which is a former manager or director, and then we give them a specialist. So we give them
Yeah.
3 people for the
That's
price of
huge.
1. So they're getting the strategic head that's working on the wish list. They're getting the consultant that's facing the employees, that's the heart, right? The implementation. And they're getting the specialist, which is a different cognitive ability to cross T's and dot I's than a strategic thinker who can talk gray. So we're
Totally.
giving them the team framework to that then meet them strategically and or tactically when we know they need that. Because the
Yeah.
problem for small businesses is they can't afford just one person who's either just strategic and won't go down in the weeds or who's tactical who
Yeah.
won't get going on the strategy.
You're never going to get that same
Yeah.
level of expertise.
So
Yeah.
we
That
give them
breadth.
that like perfect little team so that we
That's so
can
impactful.
scale with them. And then when we're really happy, we work ourselves out of a job and then we place a HR
Yeah.
person that's younger than us that can maintain what we've built. And that's my way of giving back to the field and helping a
Yeah.
business become sustainable on what we've given.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And that's always the
joyful.
goal, right? Working ourselves out of a job.
Yeah. A lot of companies like try to bring clients and stack them.
Yeah.
We won't name any names, but yeah, we're proud of ourselves when we work ourselves out of a job. For every 6 clients we gain, we net 4 a year, which means we're always turning 2 and graduating.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah. We're proud of that.
Well, it's such an amazing journey, and I feel like your company is doing some really amazing work, and I'd love your
You.
insight on what kind of trends you're seeing and how has AI impacted your business?
AI in HR is a very interesting thing. First of all, we saw it across industry because we're a shared services kind of boutique house serving, we're industry agnostic at HRBoost. So the
Yeah.
first reaction that we saw was three different worlds, basically, in if you think of viewpoint, right? So there was like this legal, financial world, banking world that was like, you're not allowed, having us write policy, HR policy, you're not allowed to use AI.
Right. Yeah.
Do not do,
Protect
right? Yeah.
protect our yeah,
Right. Then we had this
protect our
second
data.
world perspective, which was dabble in and explore and come back and do shared learning and let's discuss, kind of this collaboration that happened. And there were a number of companies that had that viewpoint and guidance. And then there was this other arm that was much more forward thinking and usually from a tech view already, like IT service firms, things like that, where they're like, no, you must attend these conferences, you must learn, and we're requiring you do 8 hours a month or 8 hours a week or whatever
Yeah.
learning and immersing yourself in this so that we can become a leader in it. And so it was really three different perspectives out there. And it was so interesting being an HR company because how diverse can you get in HR policy, right?
Yeah.
And so that was unique. From our perspective internally, we have opted where I allow our team to, we're a SharePoint user, right? And so
Yeah.
Microsoft's taken a big leadership on Copilot. So we use things like that. Some of the
Okay, yeah.
newer things, though, there's been regulation, obviously, and some lawsuits on the ATS applicant tracking side.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's being tested. And I think a lot of us are just watching and we'll wait and see how that goes because adverse impact is a real deal when you don't there's just gonna be a lot that needs to be dealt with on that before it becomes
Totally.
standardized. I do think that there's so much happening in AI on the talent attraction side, however, in
Yeah.
terms of just driving traffic to ads and opportunities. That's something that I think will be, that's happening and you'll see. I have some really interesting things that come to us because of the house that we are. We get asked to do pilots and give feedback for some newer other
Yeah.
entrepreneurs that are out there that are in the AI space. And some of the interesting ones that I've seen are really doing AI development on coaching on the back end of prompts and verbiages, if you will, to
Mhm.
performance improvement or performance achievement, where like maybe we had software as a service kind of program where it was a performance template, right? And we'd make managers use that platform, whatever that platform was called. But now those kind of systems are really doing really neat things for some of the newer people that haven't had the opportunity to gain the experience and their management abilities to be able to
Right.
coach and might not be the most verbose or articulate or know how to frame their message. So it's going to actually make it almost goof proof over time, I think, because they can type something in that's really like, let's just say it's crass and it would be red flag from an HR perspective. And it might be something
Yeah.
that we said like could get us in court and don't say
Absolutely
that.
not. Yeah. Do not say that.
And the AI tool will actually scrub it and edit it and give it in that perfection of a coach thing and prompt the user to say, well, what about this? Does this still prove the point? And then it's like click, 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 and it just submits within a feedback platform. So those are things that are piloting right now that we've seen at HR Boost that I think will become the value add in some of the platforms and software services that HR people decide upon or administer within the companies that they serve.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with AI right now. I think that there's still a lot happening. I'm going to the Goldman Sachs Summit in Washington, D.C. at the end of this month, actually.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. All the alumni of Goldman Sachs are invited to become the largest representation of small businesses across America,
Yeah, that's
like
so
every other
cool.
year. And we have this 10K Voices program. So really excited to go to Summit.
Yeah.
We end up on Capitol Hill, and they bring congressional leaders and the whole thing. They teach us to lobby practically, but we're on the front end of what's happening to bring small voices into the
That's cool.
conversation on things. And the recent survey I filled out was almost, I think, 70% AI questions. So it was really
Yeah,
interesting.
I
It
believe it.
is we're all gonna live to witness it, Lindsay.
Yeah. And it's happening quicker, I think, than I even realized for a while, but I think you talked about, like, the performance management side of it. I think HR in particular has such an opportunity because
Mhm.
thinking about big companies, there's such a spread of time management that happens with the HR team and just such heavy administrative burden that I think performance management in particular, like just knowing the amount of time I've had to work with leaders on improving and coaching them on where they're going with their performance
Yes.
management can be really meaningful.
Yes, absolutely. There's gonna be great I think it'll drive efficiencies in tactical areas first. And what it will do, though, is allow HR people who've had expertise and have a lot of circumstantial recommendations, nothing's really
Mhm.
black and white in HR, let's be honest, to
Totally.
actually show up as the knowledge workers that they've always been and do much more strategical integration, which I think that the next generation of people, even Gen Z coming out right now, would benefit from almost all Gen Xers and boomers working as knowledge workers and teaching and coaching and mentoring with real life situations of things they've seen
Totally.
rather than teaching them tactical things. And that will catapult not only that generation, but it'll catapult business and our country's competitive advantage. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. I totally agree. Well, I'm super excited about everything that's happening with your company, and I'd love to know, like, you've accomplished so much, especially you've talked about
Well,
the
only
past,
with the
like
strength of my team, let me tell you.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Well,
team effort at HRBoost, and it's not the Nicole Martin show. I'm telling you, I would
yeah.
never have accomplished what I've accomplished without my amazing boosters. And my longest, like, employee's been with me since the beginning. She's sitting nearby here right
Cool.
now. But
That's
I think
amazing.
I'm so proud of actually that my average tenure of a booster is 5
Yeah.
years, and I
Yeah.
meet people in life stage. And what's so wonderful is the HR people that I look at them where they've been with us, where they've gone and those that moved on where they're at, and they couldn't have done
Yeah.
that without HRBoost in their own words.
Totally.
But how they transition to me, Lindsay, it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like an HR booster, maybe it's because they're HR peeps, I don't know, but
Yeah.
they don't just resign. They like replace themselves and do all that stuff before they let me know. And then they resign or something and they'll tell me. And then I hold my breath and they're like, but don't worry, I already have this person and this is what we've done and everything's good and we're ready to communicate to the client, blah, blah, blah. It's like, and it's just all done. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what a gratitude. And what does that say about the respect they have for me? I'm just like,
I was gonna say that
it's
says a lot about you as a leader.
it's, like, unbelievable, and it's happened to me just more than a once, and I just am so grateful to
Yeah.
have, like, this team
That's
where
amazing.
we just get it, and we, like, drink, eat, and breathe HR. We're HR gurus, and we love bringing next practices, and that's something that brand, like, we've proven it now in Chicago, and I think that that's where I think that franchisees of the future, they can ride on our brand and all of our reviews and everything that we're doing here, and then they'll hit the ground running in their zip codes. And I'm so excited to help HR people who are just starting out and jumping ship from corporate to like
Yeah.
bring it.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Well, and that leads me to my next question. What's your vision the next 5 to 10 years for HR Boost?
I think that my vision is to keep my boutique firm here in Chicago, like, thriving in the way that it is. It's something well, part of it has to do with I'm raising kids still, Lindsay. I'm a mom.
Yeah.
So it's like, I sit there and go, my youngest is in 4th grade. I am stuck in my zip code of when they're going to school, not like these empty nesters with 2 homes in different zip codes, right? I'm stuck
Yeah.
as long as your kids are in school. And I go, before Joseph, my youngest, graduates high school, like, my goal right now, this is funny, you'll crack up because the guy who I signed with, iFranchises, who I worked with,
Yeah.
franchising, I said,
Okay.
"My goal is to have 64 franchisees by the time Joseph's in high school or by the time I retire, 64." That's my next goal. My
I
best
love
case
that.
scenario
Yeah.
ambitious goal, 64 humans.
Okay.
And they're like, "Nicole, it's gonna be bigger than that," and I'm like, "No, it's all about quality, not quantity." I
Yeah.
really wanna know my franchisees and keep the relationships going, and so, like, that's my goal. And
Yeah.
people who are in franchising joke, like, there's some franchisees that work with the brokers and do all those things, and for me, I'm gonna be much more selective and qualitative. I look at it as being a fabric of seasoned HR practitioners across the footprint of America and
Yeah.
working and supporting each other to bring it to the businesses in their backyard and meeting in their pace and budget, but being industry agnostic and being truly client centric. And even if that new HR leader, let's say in Omaha, Nebraska, has a particular industry, maybe 2 or 3 industries in their career, and they've been typecast, which happens, by the way, they can get on the phone in our internal platform and dial into our team across America and get answers and deliver. And me, that's what I see.
Yeah.
That's what HR
That's
Boost
so
is
cool.
gonna
That's
be.
huge.
It's already that way because 'cause we're already present out of state, but I want it to be a little bit more in all 50 states.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing, making new friends, and
I love it.
my first 4 and we've already had a number of people apply,
Okay.
and I didn't make it super expensive for them in terms of
Yeah.
investment. And the SBA is something with Fran data, which I'm registering it with the SBA so that
Okay.
if the franchise is approved with the SBA, so people can do that. But I don't
Yeah.
think that honestly a true veteran HR person would have to do, because it's not even like where I've made it a six-figure investment for them. And so it's something where they just have to really believe in themselves. And I believed in myself when I started in 2010. I knew what
Yeah.
I had to offer. And I think that's how I used to say, Lindsay, this is so funny. It was a recession. So a lot of people were in transition, and there's
Yeah.
people in transition right now in 2020.
Yeah.
And I used to introduce myself to people and go, because I didn't want them to know I'd like been laid off or something, because I hadn't been. I like
Yeah.
left my job and started a business. And so I used to say,
Yeah.
I'm an HR person on a mission. I'm not in transition.
I
And
love
like,
that.
feel free to take that forward, because like I
Yeah.
was
I'm gonna
the
borrow that.
next best and brightest CEO who wanted to like have a winning organization. And to me, it's a psychographic, right, of
Yeah.
who I'm looking for. And then sometimes we get called to turn the Titanic around, and we can do that too. But I love the ones that are like ready to bring energy,
Let's
something
go. Yeah.
tangible to their teams.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, we get so many different things. I mean, like originally you were asking what do people call us for, and I made a note of just things that we have answered just in the
Yeah.
last 5 days. We had a client that had a robust HRIS system and they needed somebody to come in and implement it. We do implementation on all kinds of
Okay.
platforms. You name it, Paycor, Paycom, Paylocity, ADP, Gusto,
Yeah.
Bamboo. My boosters are
Okay.
dialed into all of those things.
Yeah.
They literally can come to HRBoost and we plug and play. So we don't sell the system. We know the systems. And as you
Right.
know, systems need implementation. And then a lot of them are databases where HR people have to create the performance review approach, policy, et cetera, and put it into the system to decentralize it. So that was one that came in that we're doing right now for a client. And they were like in
Okay.
theater world.
Okay.
They're like on the retainer side of us. The FLSA one I told you about, this wage an hour, one
Yep.
that was sad, but we just did all those reclassifications for them in job description project. We do
Okay.
benchmarking by position, and we can do full compensation review as a project. We have some HR people even in the best and brightest world call us because they couldn't get the budget to get the platform, right? Which makes sense, right? So if an HR person's out there and they're working for a company and their company won't spend $5,000 on ERIA or some, huge investment to get the compensation benchmarks, they can come to us and we can give it to them.
That's so
And
cool.
that's something I'm really proud to say that we can do, because I've made that investment. And that's
Yeah.
something that everybody should be doing right now, is looking at pay equity and their compensation benchmarking.
Totally.
It's not only a compliance issue now with having to post jobs on with rates, but it helps them really understand where there could be inequities and things. And so competitively,
Yeah.
it's good to know where you're at. We also just hired, we do recruiter on demand services. So we just
Okay.
hired in less than 4 weeks a position for inside sales for a salon here in Chicago. And we did that and placed it in less than 4 weeks. We do cognitive
Wow.
assessments.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, it is quick, right? So that's why I put it out there. It's some people, well, I'm from Montana, right, Lindsay? It's like, I know how to fish. You put out good bait. I know how to hunt. I grew up hunting, honey. So I think of it always as you got to put out the right positioning. And some people just don't do it right. You don't just put a job description anymore. It's like, this is
Totally.
a lifestyle, and do you want this lifestyle?
Yeah. I've always said for all my years of talent acquisition, I'm like, being a recruiter isn't necessarily hard, but not everyone can be a recruiter.
Yeah, that's so true. And to me,
Yeah.
generalists who had like Department of One, right, they had to learn it all. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's very time consuming. And so for some small
For
businesses, it's
sure.
great. We do it white label, or we do it blind, or we can do it as HRBoost, or
Yeah.
there we can dial in and develop the systems as them. And they can use our ATS platform, which we use, and then it gets out on all
Okay.
the
Nice.
boards. And so, yeah, we do recruiter on demand services as well. And we're national for that. Like a lot of companies have gone virtual or hybrid, so they can come to us and we'll meet them at their pace and budget. We can even sparse the work where they decide what they keep and what we do. We're really collaborative that way, Lindsay. And I think that that's so important when you're working for small
Agree.
companies that are just trying to make it, you know?
Yeah. You're actually being a partner.
Yeah, really partnering with them and delivering, moving the needle, I think is so important. It's not just maintaining, right? So those are some good examples of things. I think that training, we do all kinds of training. Some of the trainings that we've
Okay.
done for clients, it's custom and we can create
Yeah.
it on their brand or on our brand. We can perform it, we can conduct it. We do handbooks in all 50 states. And that's something huge. We do harassment training in all 50 states, and that's right off of our website. They can have it virtual, or we can actually
Nice.
do it how I like to do it, which is to show up in person and have a real conversation that's much more like brown bag lunch and like let's just
Yeah.
really talk about this because it's not
Yeah.
sexual harassment, it's anti-harassment. And bottom line, people just need to feel comfortable at
Yes.
work.
Great.
And really, some companies don't realize that this is regulated, required for them on an annual basis. In Illinois,
Yeah.
it is. And I think others don't even realize that if you have like managers or people that are supposed to take in complaints, you have to have separate training, as you know, Lindsay. And they're not doing that well. And that's to protect their workforce and their liability.
Totally.
So we do
Yeah.
those kind of things. Supervisory 101, sensitivity training. We do employee relations training,
Okay.
one for a client for having difficult conversations.
Yeah.
We do company values and we do a core value survey off our HRBoost Plus on our website.
Okay.
Everything under HRBoost Plus on our website is plug and play. It's products and services. And
Nice.
so they can just come pick and do different things. And those are things. We had a client that had a last minute new hire. I love this. One of my boosters told me this yesterday. She says, one of our clients told us they had a new hire tomorrow. How many times has it happened to you, right? And we couldn't show up in person and on site. So we did it virtually. And
Okay.
process, we were able to actually create something that could be automated within their onboarding to
Nice.
transform their actual onboarding going forward.
Because onboarding can be such a pain point.
Yeah, so but you have to go through it to see kind of really what it is because it's really custom to
Yeah.
every company. If it's done right, it's
Totally.
not just like your not just your W-2 and your I-9 form, it's enculturation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, we do all kinds of things for our clients. Like whatever what people always like you said at the beginning, what is HR?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. People are like, "What is HR?" And I'm like, "Well, what is it to you?" Because
Everything people
honestly,
related.
it's easier to say what we don't do versus what we do here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Solving people problems.
Yeah. And really, CEOs, entrepreneurs, owners of businesses, they're lonely positions. And I don't think I really realized it until I became one. And then
Yeah.
I transformed into one over the last 15 years. But I think having a peer group as an entrepreneur or CEO is really important. I was in Vistage for 10
Agree.
years.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're the owner of a business, it's important, even if you have a small business, to have a unbiased within your company because the minute you sign the check, you're the boss and energy changes. And people like to
Yeah.
think they have an open door
That's such a good
policy.
point.
But from an HR perspective, you and I both know, Lindsay, that no good deed goes unpunished. And you must have a safe, unbiased, non judgmental place that people feel comfortable saying their truth. Because if
Yes.
they think that the owner holds grudges and, things like that, they won't speak up.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we
There's always going to be
provide,
a filter.
yeah, so we provide that unbiased kind of framework where they can have that with us at HR Boost.
Yeah.
We can create that for them so that they can have a place where employees complain. We even had a foundation sign on for us once that was so niche of an industry. It was a
Yeah.
foundation that gives money, billions of dollars from a billionaire, right? To
Yeah.
associated to the person who had all that money and where they want that money to go. And so it was a really intimate team. You're talking like 10 people. They
Yeah.
came to us specifically to develop the hotline
Cool.
just so they could protect their internal drama and it would be unbiased
I love
and we
that.
could give him the guidance and tips unbiased and de-identified. And so that's so important, I think. And
Totally.
even the smallest, bigger companies even use this as a cadence, right? It's just built in.
Yeah.
But middle market companies, they typically don't have something in place unless they have a true good gray
Yeah.
our internal resource, they don't have it.
And I don't think they often realize that they're missing it. Like, I think it's just something that it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind a little bit. And they assume, like, especially if they're a smaller company, that they're getting that feedback and honesty. But yeah.
It's kind of like if you ask them, "Do you have any HR issues?" and they say, "No, we're good," then you know they definitely have HR issues
Yeah.
because not
Yeah.
a
You're like,
single
okay, let's
company.
dig in there a
Right.
little bit.
No, but you really don't know, nobody's talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might wanna check on that one.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely time to dig in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate your insights and
Yeah.
your energy, and I've
Thank
just really
you.
enjoyed
If I
you.
die tomorrow, I hope people just remember my energy, that it just helped raise their vibration and they felt better after we talked. That would be a great
Yes,
thing to be on my epitaph.
I think it'll be something that lasts.
That would be great to just be remembered for my
Yeah,
energy.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you for listening to Catalyst Chats. Like, share, and don't forget to follow.